Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. With Love Megan, we'll move forward with season two. And people have some big feelings about this. There's so much commentary happening on all of the social media. There is both love and hate. And there's also criticism and praise. And I would like to throw my few cents on the topic, but I would like to approach it from a different angle. And I would like to talk more about how these decisions happen and what is a key metric that comes in play to make such a decision from a TV executive perspective. So I hope this will give you a better understanding of what matters to streaming platforms such as Netflix to come to a conclusion whether to give a series a following season or to cancel it.
Let's go.
Right. So let's start at the very beginning. Just for you who don't know me, my name is Pola Hempowicz, and I've been TV executive for the past over 17 years. I've run TV networks, I've managed and launched streaming platforms. So I have a pretty solid understanding of how things work in television. And there has been a significant change in how we evaluate content. So, a TV series, a documentary, a reality show, think anything that is available on TV or streaming platforms. So, the way we value content from a perspective of a TV channel or a platform differs depending on what type of platform we're talking about. For example, when you have a traditional TV channel with commercials, then viewership is the key metric because the more people have seen the show, the series, the film, the more people probably saw the commercials. And that means that the more TV station or the network made money in advertisement. When you don't have an advertisement, when you don't have commercials, when you have a subscription base, so now we're talking about platforms such as Netflix, Disney, Sky Showtime, um, think everything that you pay subscription for. This is what matters. What matters is not how many people see something, but how many people will continue pay the subscription fee. When you think about, when you have this in mind, it kind of changes how we see content as valuable. And this helps the performance metric change. So, as I said, for TV channels, viewership. So, how many people saw the episode is going to be the key deciding factor, whether to have more of this or less, whether to go for a season two or cancel it. But for platforms like Netflix, for streamers, there are different metrics that matter most. And I would like to tell you about two of those metrics. And I'm going to tell you about how it correlates to with Love Megan, but also we'll give you a couple of different examples just for you to understand how it relates to, for example, online hate or also a cult following, because it's not always an obvious connection. Sometimes it's quite the opposite. So, for streaming platforms, as I said, the content, the piece of content, and then especially the series that not only brings new subscribers, but also re-engages already existing subscribers is like a holy grail. But the first metric that is used to make a decision whether to move forward with another season is something that is called completion. Very important word, and I already screwed it up. So, the most important metric is completion rate, which means that the percentage of people who started watching the series or film and finished it. So, finished the whole film or finished the series. And this usually is a key factor in deciding whether to move forward with the next season. So when you think about With Love Megan and you think, oh, but people watched it for hate. People watched it to hate it. For me, it's hard to understand how someone would watch it for 8 episodes continuously. So finish the series to hate it. Usually haters watch a first episode or a couple of minutes or just bits and pieces. And then it doesn't count. Then it hurts the series rather than help it. Which means that the people who watch the series, the majority of people who watch the series, really liked it, really enjoyed it, and maybe they even found it relatable. And keep that in mind because that really is the metric that gives you a quick answer. It got a second season. Yes, it was already produced for 2 seasons, but if it wasn't performing well, if it wasn't bringing back the money for Netflix, they would just let it go, like they did with a very successful German production. Some of you may have seen, some of you may have loved, some of you may have been very upset by the news of canceling of 1899, which was a huge German hit series done at Netflix. It had a massive budget for the season 1, and then it got canceled. And when you look at commentary online and what seems like a cult following, you would think, oh, it's a no-brainer. They will move forward with season 2, 3, 5, 7, 8. Or maybe not 8, but many seasons. It's the same production team or the team behind Dark, which I don't think I have to introduce anybody to this particular German series. Huge hit, very important piece of content. But yet, 1899 disappeared after season 1, despite a massive cliffhanger, which means that the development probably already had season 2 ideas developed. Now, I worked for data companies. I worked with a couple of data companies that specialize in monitoring and measuring viewership and everything else on streaming platforms. This gets a little bit tricky, and I don't want to make it too complicated, but it's not as easy as it is with streaming, with TV channels. But with streaming platforms, it's a little bit more complicated. But let's just say that the numbers were in, and what they revealed is that a lot of people started watching first and second episode, and maybe third, but they didn't finish the series. In fact, it was only around 20 or 22%, but definitely below 30% to finish the whole thing. And the golden rule is to stick around 50% of completion rate. And that's your answer. So it doesn't matter how many people talk a lot online about this, the series, or how many people get excited or hate it or love it. The engagement online doesn't have a lot to do with the actual decision-making process. There is one company in the market, it's called Parrot Analytics, which measures the chatter online. So it can measure the level of excitement and enthusiasm for a series, or level of hate, or level of conversation about a particular title. But this doesn't influence viewership. What is it? Correlation doesn't mean causation, right? So two things might be true at once. There's a demand, there's a conversation, there's an engagement, but it doesn't translate into views, into viewership. And my favorite example, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it somewhere in my previous videos, but this is my favorite example of to show you the difference in how people react online and how it relates to actual viewership. In Brazil, there is a phenomenally talented comedic group called Porta dos Fundos. In 2019, they won the best Emmy. Oh, every Emmy is the best. They won an International Emmy Award for Best Comedy. And this award was for their Netflix Christmas special called The Last Hangover, which tells the story of Jesus and his 12 friends having this Last Supper, but in a convention of hangover movie. So they get a little crazy with the wine and they try to piece the previous evening together. They cannot remember everything. And it's incredibly funny. It is, it's, I love this special. I think it's one of the closest things I've seen to Monty Python's. And in general, Porta dos Fundos had sketches and bits very close to Monty Python. So that happened in November 2019. Mere weeks later, Netflix has released their newer Christmas special, which was called The First Temptation of Christ. And in this special, boy, they balanced the line a little bit too much because they portrayed Jesus as a gay man having a bit of a affair with Satan during the 40 days on the desert. And I think this pushed some buttons and upset a lot of people. A lot. There were petitions to Netflix signed by millions of people, not just in Brazil, but all over the world. And people were so loudly upset by the series, it wasn't a series, it was just one off. It was just a Christmas special. People got so loudly upset about it that you would think that the viewership exploded, that it was like the most watched program on Netflix in the history of Brazil. But when I joined a data company that actually measured Netflix in Brazil, this was the first thing that I checked. What was the viewership at the time? And the viewership, it was not non-existent. There was a, a stable viewership, but the numbers were quite low actually. They were nowhere near the millions of people who signed the petition and the reaction that you could see on Twitter. And of course, hate is always louder than love. Hate is always louder than the praise, and people will more likely voice their opinions if they didn't like something online. But the difference was massive. We're talking about 15 or 20,000 views per day or per week. I don't remember at this point. And 4 million signatures worldwide and 2 million alone in Brazil. So where's tens of thousands of viewers and 2 million signature? Also, and that's just a little side note, there's a different definition of a view. So not only different platforms, but also different companies define a view as count something as one view. So sometimes it's a matter of 2 seconds. Sometimes it's a matter of 30 seconds, and sometimes it's a matter of a minute. That's why it's so tricky to come to a conclusion of what the actual viewership was on streaming platform. And even if you hear numbers from a platform itself, it's not always clearly defined. So be very mindful
Very demure, very mindful.
of the numbers that you see. Um, and another side note, and I know this is getting a little bit too long and too complicated, but try to be a little bit reserved when you see the top 10 in a country given by platforms, because very often it's just a marketing tactic. Because people, there are over 7 or 8,000 titles on Netflix in most countries. You're not gonna scroll through all of them to make a decision. You're either going to watch something that you came there for, or you will rely on recommendation. And one of the recommendation tool is the top 10. People want to see what's popular, what's been watched. Um, Netflix didn't cancel at that time, stood by Porta dos Fundos, even though there was a terrorist attack on their headquarters in Rio. I believe Molotov cocktails have been thrown into their offices, which is very scary when you think about this. But thankfully, no one was hurt. You can actually see one of the videos that I posted on this channel is the moment of when they win uh, the Emmy, which is such a lovely moment. I was there and I was very happy for them, although that was the year where the competition was incredibly strong and all four titles were worthy of this award. Now, how does it translate to With Love, Meghan? You might have an understanding or might have an image of the amount of people that have seen the show because everybody seems to have an opinion on it, but it might not necessarily be true. And the only thing that I can be somewhat certain of is that people who watched it, or the majority of people who watched it, who started watching it, finished it. Otherwise, Netflix would not be pushing for a season two. Um, but don't trust the reviews so much. Don't trust the hate. Don't trust the outrage. And if you can, just watch it for yourself and see what the fuss is all about. And remember that you have immense power in how your viewing habits influence decisions made by the streaming platforms. How you watch will be analyzed, and then based on this, the decision will be made. Don't watch something to hate it because you empower it in a way. At the same time, watch it to have an opinion, right? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's been too much talking already.
Come on, baby, I'm tired of talking.
But there's just uh, one more metric that I wanted to bring up because it's not so widely discussed, and it's called Reactivation Index. Or it may not be called this way. I've seen it called like this in one or two companies, but I feel from what I know about the industry is that this is the holy grail. So we live in times where everything is incredibly expensive. So you're gonna have to make, as a consumer, as a subscriber, you're gonna have to make a tough choice. Which subscription to keep, which to let go of. And let's say you've 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 been a Netflix subscriber for a while. And let's say for the past month, you haven't watched anything there. You haven't logged onto your account, or maybe you did. Maybe you scrolled and you haven't found anything that caught your eye. You are on the brink of canceling your subscription. And remember that Netflix bottom line depends on renewal of subscription of, you know, so keeping the subscriber base as steady or as much growing as possible. There is the word in the industry, which is churn, and churn describes the loss of subscribers or consumers or users. And you want to avoid that. You want to fight that. That's your enemy. And the way to fight it is to find engaging content that awakens or re-engages the audience that or the subscribers that haven't used the platform for a while. And if you are a returning customer, so let's say you either canceled and now you buying the subscription again, or more importantly, you haven't been active and you haven't watched anything for the past month, and now the first thing you watch is With Love Meghan, and probably it's very likely that after this you will rewatch the Harry and Meghan documentary, or you will watch a similar show with this type of theme. Maybe you will watch another cooking show. Maybe you will watch something with Mindy Kaling. Maybe you'll watch Suits again. So not only have you just stayed, so paid another month of subscription, you might have re-energized your viewing habits on this platform and you might be staying for many more months. And that's the gold customer. And that's also the golden content for the platform. And this will get as many seasons as possible. And this will get as much exposure as possible. Because this is the key to lower the churn and to increase the engagement of subscribers. Everything that's been on a platform, whichever platform that is, and you keep wondering why they keep having it, why they renewing the same license over and over again. I was running Comedy Central in Poland, and we had Friends and Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon, but the majority of our lineup or schedule was Friends. And people online were questioning it. Why? Why so much Friends? Because people were watching it. And this was the reason why people kept going back to our channel. It's not to annoy you. It's not because TV executive are running out of ideas. It's because it works and it brings money. So if you question certain decisions, try to be less judgmental and more curious, and try to see it as, okay, it's good for business. I get it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to watch it. But there's a lot of other people that find this content appealing, attractive, relaxing, comfortable, what they're in a mood for, what they need. And that wins because that keeps the subscriber base solid. So, With Love Meghan simply works for Netflix. It might not work for you, which is perfectly fine, but it works for a certain audience that Netflix is relying on. I think that's what I wanted to leave you with. And just again, to remind you, you as a consumer, you as a subscriber, you as a viewer have amazing power. And you can influence so many decisions just by how you consume, watch, and keep your subscriptions. If you want to see a change, you have a voice. All you have to do is just use it. And I would really like to encourage you to do that. And then we'll have more of the content that we actually want to see, rather than content that it's there because someone makes an assumption based on the popularity of something else. Use your voice, and you'll see how amazing series and films will be presented to you. That's it for me for today. I hope that helped, or I hoped that opened some drawers in that nugget of yours. And if you have more questions, or if you want to know more about TV industry, just let me know. And I'm always here to help. Paula from Poland signing off. Bye.